The night before the emperor was to depose the empress, I bound myself to a divorce system. As soon as the edict of deposition was issued, I took half of his empire as my share. The emperor was furious. This is our ancestral legacy, the system, because you inherited it after marriage. It's now considered joint property of the emperor and empress Tilda. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. The day Li Qihui took his widowed sister-in-law as a concubine, memorials of remonstrance flew in like snowflakes. My father also secretly sent a letter, asking me to persuade him. I couldn't persuade him. He and the imperial concubine were childhood sweethearts, deeply in love in their youth. But fate intervened and they never managed to marry. Li Qihui's obsession runs deep. When he was still the crown prince, he personally painted my eyebrows and styled my hair. Gazing through my appearance at another person, only like this does she resemble her. I obediently lowered my head. Yes, as soon as Li Qihui left, I removed all the makeup. The system said, "That's the spirit, not being a substitute." I said, "No, he made me up to look like a lady crown princess. I don't care who Li Qihui loves, it's just to complete the conquest mission. If the conquest succeeds, I can be resurrected and return to my original world." My character is the female protagonist of an ancient tragic novel. Accumulate enough of Li Qihui's heartache, and success will follow, the kind of heartache where pain strikes me, but sorrow pierces his heart. He torments me from time to time, making me wear the white moonlight's worn garments. He would kiss me under the influence of alcohol. Then, after clearly seeing my face, he would coldly push me away. You are, after all, not her. I had been deceiving Li Qihui for 4 years. At the beginning of his reign, I was bestowed the title of empress, and the harem remained empty. I thought the bitter times had finally passed and sweet days were ahead. I never expected that this sweetness would be like swill water. After becoming emperor, he started to have affairs. At that time, his moonlight was the princess of Qi. The Qi prince's residence had become the imperial garden, and he visited it every day. Rumors spread throughout the capital. I became his public relations manager, constantly clarifying facts that everyone already knew. The 8th day after the king of Qi's death, Li Qihui set off fireworks all night long on the star-picking pavilion. The court ministers begged me to go and persuade him. I begged him to stop laughing, for if he continued, everyone would know he was a despicable villain. He said, "I can wait. We'll celebrate after the first 7 days of mourning are over." I give up. On the 9th day, the Qi king's consort became a noble concubine. Fireworks were set off again. The noise was so loud that it could be heard even in Qiwu Palace. At 3 in the morning, I stuffed cotton into my ears. When will this farce end? The system said, "Soon, your good days are coming to an end." Its words were quite unpleasant to hear, but this was the truth. The Shu region had offered the finest batch of Shu brocade. Before it could even reach me, it was all cut into new clothes for the imperial concubine, a rare golden pearl from the South Sea. I wore it in my hair, while the imperial concubine wore it embedded in her shoes. On the day of my birthday, a grand banquet was held in the palace, and the ladies of the court were also invited to attend. The imperial concubine wore an excessively ornate phoenix crown, her etiquette incomplete. As she coquettishly leaned into Li Qihui's embrace, the gazes of the entire hall were varied. I threw down a golden cup. The imperial concubine is also a lady of noble birth. Does she not even understand etiquette? Li Qihui looked at me coldly. It's not for the empress to speak. This seat was originally meant for her. After that day, everyone knew that I could no longer sit on the throne as queen. Even the system couldn't bear to watch anymore. Just get divorced. Can you even make this work anymore? I said. Fine, let's divide up our shared assets. System. This is ancient times. Who's writing a divorce agreement? I ignore it. What are you muttering about? The transmigrator has arrived, and you're not allowed to have a divorce agreement. According to this story, I have to leave him first, and only then will he realize he loves me. Filled with anguish and remorse, then I'll take half of his kingdom, and he'll be heartbroken to death. This quest will be a piece of cake. The system was convinced by what I said. Fine, leave, go. Qiwu Palace was cold and desolate. We huddled together and spent the entire night counting on our fingers. That can be split in half for me. although it's a bit unrealistic. My appearance itself is unrealistic. Li Chihuai's custom-made dragon robes are getting more and more beautiful. I've wanted to wear them for a long time. This should also be split half with me, and those ministers who dote on the emperor, no matter what shocking evil deeds he commits, they only urge me to advise him, not a single one. Rebels, also give me some. From now on, come and dote on me. With half of this, I can declare myself king, choose an imperial title, then go find a polar bear to ride. I've got myself all worked up with these fantasies, so much so that when the chief eunuch from Li Chihuai's side appeared beside me, I was still smiling. He bowed to me, his gaze complicated. Your Majesty, His Majesty requests your presence. The concubine has fallen into a coma. It was poisoning. She ate something from my palace. Our grudge against each other has been long-standing, known to all. She embarrassed me again last night, and I harbored hatred in my heart. Since I had already done the deed, I might as well go all the way and kill her with a blade. The above is what others guessed to be my motive for the crime. I really didn't do it. I'm a legendary endurance king, not a desperate poison master. In the great hall, Li Chihuai's face was stern as he looked down from his elevated position. Lu, do you know your crime? I was forced to my knees by the palace maids. Behind me, a group of ministers knelt, all pleading for mercy. Perhaps there are extenuating circumstances in this matter. Your Majesty, please investigate carefully. My previous character was that of a virtuous empress, diligent, uncomplaining, and also very receptive to advice. Naturally, there are those who do not wish for me to be discarded, so they switch to another who would cause trouble. I pressed my forehead to the ground, tears slowly streaming down my cheeks. Your humble wife is innocent. After 4 years of marriage, does your Majesty not even wish to grant this much trust to your humble wife? I don't want to be the one at fault. What if the system decides I deserve less of the assets? I lifted my head, looking up at him through tear-blurred eyes. Li Kai hesitated for a moment. We had been together for 4 years. After all, I am gentle and courteous, without any fault. Within, I cooperate with his antics. Without, I comply with the minister's admonishments. His ability to sit firmly in the position of crown prince also owes much to the support of my maternal clan. He frowned slightly and loosened his grip. Forget it. Help the empress down. Until the investigation is complete, no one is to show her any disrespect. I was assisted to my feet and departed after expressing my gratitude. My knees throbbed faintly. I wiped the tears from my face and secretly made a vow. 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river, don't look down on the poor young man. That night, the imperial concubine woke up. She made a terrible fuss, crying and coughing. Li Chihuai stayed by her side at Penglai Palace, soothing her throughout the entire night. He conducted an investigation. The evidence pointed to me, but it was somewhat tenuous, relying solely on testimony from the imperial consort's trusted attendants. I am the female protagonist of a persecution narrative, the perfect victim. After 4 years of being a good person, treating everyone with gentleness, the monthly allowance would only be doubled, never shortchanging a single coin. Whenever anyone had difficulties, they could come to me, and I would surely offer assistance. She wanted to bribe people in my palace, but had no way to proceed. The noble consort was somewhat desperate, beginning to play the emotional card. I heard all about it later. Back then we each had our difficulties, and now that you are the supreme emperor, must you still wrong me? The imperial concubine wept bitterly, the beautiful woman shedding tears. Pear blossoms accompanied by rain, evoking sympathy even from me. Do you remember 7 years ago, beneath the peach blossom tree? Your Majesty held my hand and said you would never wish to let me down in this life. Whenever she mentioned the past, it was like a rigid essay template forced upon me during the college entrance exam. But Li Chihuai happened to be completely captivated by this very thing. He had initially been somewhat hesitant, but upon hearing this, he wavered. Very well, if you desire the position of empress, I shall grant it to you. He is also very efficient. Early in the morning court session, he used those flimsy pieces of evidence to convict me and demanded that the empress be deposed. The court officials are about to bang their heads against the pillars in protest. Li Chihuai completely ignored them. After the court session ended, he personally carried the imperial edict and headed straight for Chiwu Palace. Only those who have wronged me know how unjustly I have been treated. Therefore, Li Chihuai felt somewhat guilty. He lowered his eyes, avoiding eye contact with me. I have wronged Ningning too much in the past. I can only ask you to endure this hardship for a while longer, and I will come to fetch you out of the cold palace in the future. You still want to remarry? How beautiful you imagine it to be. I bit my lip and barely managed to squeeze out 2 tears. Yes. Li Chihuai sighed and had the eunuch beside him read out the imperial edict. The final word fell. I accepted the edict. The system said, departed. Heaven and earth suddenly began to tremble. A golden mist erupted from above his head, causing everyone present to kneel in awe and shout, His Majesty is the true dragon son of heaven. This is the aura of an emperor. Everyone was seeing it for the first time. Li Chihuai was also somewhat shocked, standing with his hands behind his back, yet feeling somewhat pleased by the praise. Soon, he could see it. The imperial aura split in 2, with the other half flying toward me. That's right, because he only became emperor after marriage. This imperial aura is also marital property, so half belongs to me. The chief eunuch was stunned for a moment, but the next moment, a mysterious force drove him forward. He turned in a different direction and continued kneeling respectfully toward me. Long live your majesty. Li Chihuai's eyes widened, and he pointed at the person kneeling on the ground with a trembling finger, his voice quivering with anger. What do you mean? Are you planning to rebel? As soon as the words left his mouth, the dragon robe he had custom-made flew onto me. I wore the oversized black robe embroidered with golden patterns, took 2 steps, and nearly tripped over the hem. The system was absolutely fair. My treasured heavy embroidered phoenix robe also flew onto Li Chihuai's body, size M. He almost couldn't hold it together. That's how we are, half emperor, half empress. My jewelry, split half with him, his crown, split half with me. But the system is a bit abstract. When we divided the shoes, he took one. I took one. He got all the left shoes. I got all the right shoes. This is wrong. I left with my head held high, wearing the dragon shoes on both right feet. I walked a bit slowly, but it didn't matter. This was the dignity of the Son of Heaven. Li Chihuai chased after me. Because she wore 2 left-footed size 36 phoenix shoes, she quickly tripped and fell to the ground, nearly collapsing. A group of people behind him wailed like ghosts and wolves, Your Majesty, don't chase Your Majesty, Your Majesty. You can't defeat Your Majesty. That Majesty possesses immortal arts. The imperial palace was not peaceful tonight. Li Chihuai couldn't sleep. The system said he had gone to find the imperial preceptor overnight. The night was deep and dark. The female sovereign from another world, script in hand, remained calm at first. Your Majesty, do not be hasty. Your Majesty is the Son of Heaven. Nothing will happen to you. Li Chihuai felt somewhat reassured and let out a sigh of relief. She held the astronomical telescope and gazed at the night sky, suddenly letting out a holy crap. Li Chihuai's heart, which had just settled, jumped again. My dear minister, is it Mars guarding the heart or the perilous moon Yang charging the moon? The imperial preceptor was sweating profusely, wringing his hands like a fly. Neither of those. I saw a divorce agreement, still simplified characters, Fangsong GB 2312, body text and headings justified on both sides. First line of each paragraph indented by 2 characters, body text line spacing 28 points. Li Chihuai's eyebrows were furrowed so tightly they could crush a fly. He didn't understand. What are you talking about? Have you gone crazy too? The imperial tutor removed his official hat and slipped away. Fortune-telling, you see, is like a drumbeat. First it's strong, then it weakens, and by the 3rd time it's exhausted. The 4th time, it's just a bunch of nonsense. Given His Majesty's fortune, he was originally invincible under heaven, but now enemies have descended from the heavens. My lord, I have no other choice. This subject takes his leave. This retreat shall last a lifetime. I ran up to the star-picking pavilion and began setting off the fireworks that Li Chihuai had not finished launching. The crackling and popping sounds filled my ears, bringing me immense joy and serenity. Now I finally understand why he used to love setting off fireworks so much. When you're happy, you have to celebrate. I set them off for a whole day and night. It was the system's turn to beg me to stop. If you two keep going like this, global warming is going to happen. I thought that made sense. So I tied it up and went to court again, on foot. very environmentally friendly, Li Chihuai was in morning court. His topic today was very serious. A second emperor had appeared in the palace, and he wanted everyone to think of a solution together. It looked like he was opening the floor for discussion, but in reality, he was out of options. I pushed the door open and entered. In an instant, the court officials turned like morning sunflowers, all kneeling in unison with a whoosh. Long live His Majesty! Li Chihuai on the dragon throne turned pale with anger, slamming the armrest as he shouted in fury. Are you all planning to rebel? Quite the opposite. It is precisely because of loyalty to the emperor that such loyalty toward me exists. I walked up, the dragon throne split in two, cracking open. The expression on Li Chihuai's face was about to crack as well. He sat on the left half. The broken gap was a bit uncomfortable to sit on, but he endured it, his back ramrod straight. To maintain his dignity and decorum, I shot him a look as if he were an idiot. Then had a eunuch bring me a new chair to sit on. If you have something to report, do so, otherwise, the court is dismissed. The Prime Minister said there was something. There are two emperors in the palace. That shouldn't be right, should it? He was a little confused, citing scriptures and expounding at length, all to make one point: there is usually only one emperor. I made a throat-slitting gesture. Li Chihuai underestimates me. The general thoughtfully made a note on the assassination list. Li Chihuai, Emperor, Lu Jiaohuang, Emperor, both respectfully and disrespectfully. He looked up again and asked, even if I underestimate him, should I still kill him? This person seems to have no grudge against His Majesty. I stood up and slapped the right armrest. That's not what I mean. You only need to kill Li Chihuai. Li Chihuai pointed at me. Kill her. The loyal general's left and right brains clashed. His CPU instantly burned out, and he collapsed. The court immediately descended into chaos. I had originally intended to say that I wanted to participate in the imperial selection, but bringing it up now didn't seem quite right either. I sighed. Let's adjourn court first, and send for the imperial physician. The ministers dispersed, outside the palace gates. The imperial concubine stood, her posture alluring, waiting for Li Chihuai. Li Chihuai didn't want to see me. He quickened his pace and walked ahead of me. The imperial concubine gracefully approached, asking with shy hesitation, Your Majesty, about the matter of being named empress. She brought up the one topic that shouldn't be mentioned. Li Chihuai's empire was now only half its original size. What if he divorced again? Then it would be only a quarter. But the advantage of this mechanism was that no matter how many times he divorced, he would still have an empire. A chill settled on Li Chihuai's weary face. Let's discuss this later. I have a headache right now. The imperial concubine bit her lip in frustration, then quickly spotted me walking behind him. She walked towards me, lifting her chin. What are you doing here? I started thinking about something. Does marital community property include imperial concubines? Although it's said that people cannot be objectified, but half of those eunuchs and ministers are mine. I couldn't figure it out, so I honestly answered her. Being an emperor, she stamped her foot in anger. What nonsense are you talking about? You're clearly a deposed empress. Perhaps because she was an important character, she wasn't suddenly split in half and given to me. I shook the ceremonial tassels on my crown and smiled wickedly. You don't believe me? Then I'll choose you tonight. The imperial concubine's face turned ashen. She scurried back and tugged at Li Chihuai's sleeve. Your Majesty, say something. Look at her. Li Chihuai's face also paled. Why did you provoke her? He walked towards me, stopped, and warned me in a deep voice. She is my imperial concubine. She's not yours. I spread my hands. First come, first served. We are both emperors, because I picked the card first, so she has to come to me first. Li Chihuai, this incompetent husband, could only close his eyes in humiliation and let out a long sigh. Forget it. Ning Ning, she doesn't have that kind of fetish. She probably just wants to get back at you. Just bear with it for now. The imperial concubine continued to stomp her feet in anger. She started tap dancing. Night. The imperial concubine was carried into the expanded Phoenix Perch Palace. The once arrogant woman clutched her outer robe tightly, shedding tears of humiliation, and whimpered. I finally understand. In palace intrigues, the truly terrifying ones are not enemies, but humans who commit suicide by defecating. Human nature can sometimes be truly demonic. I was stunned. What is she talking about? Is she really going to remain chaste for Li Kai-Huai and then fight me to the death? The system said. She says your temperament has changed drastically. I really need to revise the palace rules. Pass the Putonghua Level 2B exam before entering the palace to become a concubine. I thought for a moment, is the Empress's seal currently in your possession? The imperial noble consort closed her eyes, clenching her fingers tightly. Looking as if she would rather die than yield. I won't give it to you. I'll be Empress even if it kills me. Even if you kill me, His Majesty will still grant me a posthumous title. I rubbed my forehead, a wry smile on my face. I wasn't trying to steal it. There's only one phoenix seal. I've decided to hold a selection, and I want you to manage it properly. The consort cried even harder. You want to find a group of women to share His Majesty's favor. I tapped the table with my hand and said calmly, no, I want to hold a selection. Go find me a group of handsome men, clean in body and mind. This time, it was her turn to be stunned. This can't be right. I smiled. Go find me a group of people to serve me. Then I won't need Li Chihuai anymore. He will only dote on you. This made perfect sense. The imperial concubine was convinced. The draft was organized by the imperial noble consort. She went all out, including every eligible man. Li Chihuai was heartbroken, because he had always been eating what was in his bowl while eyeing what was in the pot. Now, watching the imperial concubine help me choose a man, my heart aches. Watching me have to choose a man, my heart aches. The pain is double the pain, his heartache, my currency. The imperial concubine brought me many portraits for my initial screening. I looked at them carefully. The system annotated basic information next to each. Pei Shu, the legitimate son of the Pei clan from Hadong, age 23, experience 0. That qualifies. The system pulled up a memory. This is the second male lead who will rise to power later. You knew each other as children. He played at your house, and you played at his, which is why he can't forget you. I awkwardly rolled up the painting. What do? I don't recognize it. Remembering something from 10 years ago could only mean he had a good memory. I selected a batch. On the day of the draft, Li Chihuai didn't show up. He found us all an eyesore and went to a corner to stick pins in my voodoo doll. The imperial noble consort, however, was present. She clutched her precious phoenix seal, dressed in a peach-colored gown. I casually complimented it, saying it wasn't bad. She grew melancholic again. It's a pity concubines can only wear pink. I paused. You only eat braised pork, not steamed pork with rice powder. The imperial concubine was silent for a moment too, then whispered, that's not the same, is it? I said, I never forbade you from wearing red before. The consort's CPU burned out. Perhaps this is the recipe for the villainous in an angsty romance. A dash of the legitimate vs. illegitimate cult, a bit of female rivalry, a touch of pampered arrogance, a hint of malice. A little love for the male lead, and a bit of desire for power, very authentic. Imperial concubine Guifei is here today to help me appraise. According to palace rules, during the selection, the person in charge of the phoenix seal must also be present. Her taste in men is quite ordinary, but in some ways, his quite skilled, excellent scions of aristocratic families entered the hall to pay their respects. She said, this is the prince of a certain tribe. If we don't choose him, it will dishearten the 49 tribes. This is the son of the Songyang County magistrate. If he's unhappy, the entire Songyang County will be unhappy. Apply Chinese to Chinese translation. I asked her, where did you get so much experience? The imperial consort fell into a reverie. The reason I couldn't marry His Majesty back then was because the late emperor needed to balance various forces. No one understands better than I do how to balance powerful families through selecting consorts, a group of live-in sons-in-law. I'm different now. I can choose whoever I want. But I didn't contradict her. I smiled and, on my own, selected 15 people. Finally, clutching my chest, I said with a pained heart, actually, I am most fond of the Pei family member and wish to spend my entire life with him, as a couple of two, but to balance the noble families. I had no choice but to take 14 more. Speaking this way makes me seem like a clever and proper person, rather than a pure color. The imperial concubine's eyes reddened, and she suddenly gripped my hand. Then you must not let him down. I nodded without a hint of guilt. Today, Li Chihuai had learned his lesson. He turned over his earlier than I did, specifically requesting noble consort to attend him that night. But that night, he broke down. Because the noble consort who arrived wasn't his Ningning, it was my noble consort Pei. Noble consort Pei pushed open the door, saw it was him, flicked her sleeve, and calmly walked away. There are now 2 noble consorts. Your Majesty has the wrong person. Li Chihuai held the concubiness and stared blankly all night. He looked left and right, up and down, and all he saw were men. Because I secretly removed noble consort Ninges, I don't need it, so I won't keep it. Li Chihuai couldn't take it anymore and decided to separate palaces with me. Only then did I realize that he hadn't been pricking my voodoo doll for the past few days. Instead, he had been looking for a solution. The imperial advisor wanted to quit, but he couldn't. So he released a secret code throughout the land, Song-style coin strike 2312, with a hefty reward. He managed to find a group of people. That evening, he apprehended the runaway imperial advisor and gathered everyone for a meeting in the Zichen Hall. This is a precious video of ancient humans divorcing by agreement. The imperial advisor was responsible for communicating with the heavenly Tao, turning a blind eye to her telescope. That's not wrong. In a way, the system is the heavenly Tao. The several transmigrators exchanged glances, secretly offering advice to Li Chihuai. Li Chihuai sat opposite me, propping his chin with one hand. His weariness barely concealed. The empire is the ancestral foundation. Even by your rules, a divorce cannot grant half to the empress. The imperial advisor, observing the night sky, said, the heavenly Tao says that because you inherited it after marriage, it is joint property of the emperor and empress. Li Chihuai fell silent, winking at the transmigrator behind him. The transmigrator hinted, Your Majesty, was there a last will and testament back then? Specifying who should inherit this empire, he slightly raised his chin, smiling confidently. Naturally, there was none. I was crown prince for many years. Inheriting the throne was the will of the people. These were his achievements, to be carved on his tombstone even in death. But a sigh came from behind him. It's over. The imperial advisor pressed a hand to his forehead, a wry smile on his face. What else is there to say? Your Majesty, the empire is hers. Li Chihuai sensed something was wrong and stopped smiling. What does this mean? I enunciated each word. It means the original judgment stands, that half of your empire is to be divided and given to me. Li Chihuai's lips thinned into a straight line, his face growing paler and paler, cold sweat trickling down. And what is this divorce agreement? I pulled out a stack of papers. This. The emperor and empress voluntarily dissolve their marriage and have reached an agreement regarding child custody, property division, and other related matters. We have no children, only the matter of property division. He glanced at it, unable to bear looking again. I don't know when I stamped this. I put away the paper. You have a collecting habit, stamping anything new you see. He once stamped my collection of calligraphy and paintings, despite my objections. And stamp the divorce agreement while you're at it, Li Chihuai. The agreement stated, the palace would be left to Li Chihuai. The 2 imperial lodges are mine. I don't want the imperial ancestral temple. Give it all to Li Chihuai. The rest, split equally between the 2 of us. On the day of the move, I took half the palace maids and eunuchs with me. Li Chihuai stood on the star-picking pavilion looking down. A grand procession of people exited through the palace gates. Taking with them half the treasures from the emperor's private treasury, he could no longer smile, clenching his fists tightly and grinding his molars to pieces. The concubine, understanding and considerate, stayed by his side. Your Majesty, the weather is truly beautiful today. By the way, the rear position is vacant. This Yang Kingdom map is incredibly short. Li Chihuai slammed the railing fiercely. The railing suffered minor damage, but his hand was severely injured. No more successors. I will never establish a new dynasty again. The imperial concubine's eyes widened, tears welling up. Didn't your Majesty promise to make me empress? It was all for naught. Li Chihuai truly doted on her. It had come to this, and he could only roar in despair. I truly have no empire left to divide for you. Those transmigrators said so. After I establish an empress one more time, the empire will split into 3 kingdoms, a few more times. And it'll be the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms, the rise and fall of dynasties, past and present, rests solely within S thoughts. Concubine Guifei, Li Chihuai wept even louder than she did. Now she felt too embarrassed to continue crying. The system said, in an abusive novel, the heroine's sudden departure wouldn't cause the hero too much heartache. It would take days for the hero to realize that he couldn't live without the heroine in his life. What gibberish are you spouting? For me, it should be, the next time Li Chihuai goes on an incognito visit to Jiangnan, he will realize that he can no longer freely enter my territory, instead of realizing I'm no longer by his side. In plain language, it means Li Chihuai isn't heartbroken enough yet. He was also a legendary king, resilient to abuse. Half the kingdom was already gone, still not enough to break his heart. Never mind, I lay on the pure gold dragon throne, draped in a custom-made dragon robe, eating grapes peeled by consort Pei. He was handsome, with a few strands of dark hair falling by his ears, and a cool, aloof demeanor. Occasionally, grape juice would stain his slender fingers, making his skin appear even fairer and more luminous. Beside him, Consort Zhao was reading the memorials from local officials requesting an audience. Some ministers were truly too verbose, and all of it was in classical Chinese, too tiresome to read. His voice was clear and melodious, like shattered Kunlun jade. Concubine Shu sat to one side, head bowed, plucking the peeper strings. It was the melody of Qin Shi Huang riding a polar bear. I rescued him from a life of hardship. His origins weren't noble, so his rank isn't high either. I thus contentedly listened to these insignificant memorials and quickly approved them. Late at night, those concubines withdrew. Pei Shu still hadn't left. He was as clingy as Li Chihuai's noble consort Ning. He blew out a few lamps, slowly shedding his outer robe in the warm yellow light. Using his beauty, he began to whisper sweet nothings. Consort Xian said I was a temptress today. His voice trailed off, long and drawn out, with a hint of magnetism and languor. What do you think, Your Majesty? I thought silently. He didn't seem to be wrong, but I definitely couldn't say that. I hooked my finger into his palm, but his paternal lineage has been marquises for generations, which makes me wary. I've put you through too much. You have to understand. I've just ascended the throne. You're still in my heart. After all, I used to play at his house when I was little. I still can't recall what kind of connection we have, but right now, he's definitely the one I find most agreeable. Pei Shu let out a long sigh. All right then, I was just about to go to sleep. Concubine Wei sent someone to invite me. She's a beauty plagued by illness, which makes me feel deeply sorry for her. But I've already stood up once today, so I shouldn't stand him up again now. I said to my attendant, enduring the pain, send a message to Consort Shu. He is in my heart. But Consort Gui is from the Hadong Pei clan, a prominent aristocratic family, and cannot be slighted. This time, Consort Shu will have to be wronged. Go to my private treasury and choose a gift to send, so that Consort Shu will not take offense. Having spoken, I turned, about to go back. Pei Shu, I don't know when, had stepped out from behind the many layers of gauze. He trod silently on the carpet. His clothes hung loosely, revealing his collarbone. Her appearance was captivating, yet her expression was melancholic. I chased after him and wrapped my arms around his waist. Ah, listen to me. Consort Shu's family situation is also a bit peculiar. Such were the days of being the Empress Dowager, teasing my younger brother, simple and unadorned, yet somewhat testing my emotional intelligence. It was the second year of ruling the other half of the empire. With the system's help, the government was efficient, the people harmonious, and all neglected affairs were thriving. I am the one who is destined to be prosperous. Li Chihuai, on the other hand, had a rather ordinary life. He was an ordinary man to begin with. 100 birds sang in unison. I said to Pei Shu very seriously, actually, I'm not from this world. I stayed in this mortal realm only for you. He was very cooperative, his eyes reddening with emotion. It is this subject's fortune. Your Majesty, this will not be spoken to another soul, will it? I let out a dry chuckle. Haha, of course. Actually, no. Turning around, I rephrased it and spoke to Lady Shu, who had already been promoted to Jowie. I still remember that day. When you were bullied by that dissolute woman, I arrived just in time. Actually, I am not from this world. I came to Earth to redeem you. Shu Jowie was incredibly moved, crying. She played me another tune, Qin Shi Huang riding a polar bear. My historian was a woman from a humble background. I said, actually, I am not from this world. I stayed among humans so that you could display your talents. The historian replied, well, what else is there to say? Here are 2 sets of imperial annals for you. It was the 4th year of my reign as emperor. My ministers suggested I produce a few children to inherit the throne. They had already accepted that I was a fairy and could create them at will. I asked the system to come up with a solution. It handed me a pile of clay. Mold whatever you want yourself. I kneaded it twice and then froze. Isn't this a tutorial for making slime? The system said, you should look for a face sculpting tutorial. Do you want a character creation code? I read a few pages, but I didn't really like it. Let's think of another way. Wei Shufei was an art student. She could not only paint but also sculpt. I asked him to help sculpt one. He snuck in his own preferences, sculpting a baby girl that strongly resembled his own temperament, a melancholic child in ancient times. I wasn't satisfied, so I took her to Pei Shu, who has excellent aesthetic taste, for a makeover. Pei Shu exuded an aura of cool intelligence. I was very satisfied and decided I wanted this child. Pei Shu asked, then who will be considered her father? I pondered for a moment. This is a face sculpting chain game, right now. Her eyes are like mine, her temperament like Pei Shu's, and her eyebrows like Consort Wei Shu's. Consort Shu sculpted you first, then you sculpted her, so she calls Consort Shu Big Daddy and calls you Second Daddy. Pei Shu, he sighed a long, drawn-out sigh. If I had known this, I would have snatched him up and squeezed him. I have my own child now, but the child is a bit socially anxious, doesn't speak, doesn't move, lying there. It felt a bit like Happy Valley. I asked the system, why isn't she speaking? The system replied, she doesn't have a core yet. So, here's the problem. Where do I find a soul? System, you set a strategy mission, and I'll go find it for you. I paused. Are these missions set by the previous strategist for the next one? The system said, yes. This world was shaped by generations of conquerors. Actually, you were an emperor before. It's hard to imagine what my predecessor went through to come up with such a storyline. I thought for several days before giving the system my answer. Be a good emperor, that's all. The system also fell into contemplation. Why does this feel like an emperor simulation game? Yes, we, the strategists, are meant to be emperors. When the new strategists transmigrated, the eldest princess opened her eyes. Her eyes were bright and clear. I was leaning over the cradle, watching her, and our gazes met. It was my first time being a mother, and I was a little nervous. You're awake. Come up with an ID for yourself. Her big eyes showed great surprise as she waved her chubby hands. System translation. She can't speak yet, however. She decided to set her ID as McDonald's escaped fries. That was delicious. I'm never doing abstract stuff again. I said properly once. That's not what I meant. Your surname is Liu. Choose a 2 or 3 character name. She said, Lu Yuan. I became an old player, bringing a new player into the Emperor simulator. I could see her data panel. She went to the Prime Minister to study, literature +1. She went to the General to learn riding and archery, martial arts +1. I took the others to the summer resort, leaving her to oversee the country, ability +1, a Crown Prince growth plan, perhaps, fun. Before leaving that world, Lu Yuan had grown into a man capable of standing on his own. His imperial palace is now mine too. I stood on the former star-picking tower and set off some fireworks for a while. Fireworks blazed. Suddenly, I remembered that I seemed to have had 2 chances to change the world. The night I decided to leave the world, I lay in bed, sighing. This life is so short. Pei Shu, lying beside me, adjusted the quilt. Finding it wasn't inside out, he fell silent for a moment. A moment later, he softly asked, Is your Majesty returning to the heavens? I said, yes, tonight. I'll pull an all-nighter. Lu Yuan and my most trusted ministers were summoned to my side. I began to write my last will and testament. I bequeathed the throne to my eldest daughter, Lu Yuan. I made arrangements for the women in the imperial harem. Finally, I instructed the imperial historian, make sure to record everything properly later. I had prepared my own exit special effects. She pulled out a pen and paper, nodding seriously. The system, at the opportune moment, sent a strong wind sweeping through, tree shadows swaying, and 100 birds wailing. I simply flew away, with a flick of his sleeve, leaving behind only the legend of an immortal descending to Earth to become emperor in this world. The end.